Hey y'all, Melissa here with you today, and today's project is making this pair of stretch elastic finished underwear. So I am using a free pattern that is available on my site from an older project, and newsletter subscribers can get access to this pattern. I've put a link below so that you can follow to go to that post and get the original pattern. And then I'm not going to cover all the construction today because there's already a video and written instructions that covers that. So what you're going to do is you're going to follow all of those instructions up to the point where you're ready to add elastic. And you'll notice on that original post that there are 3 other different ways to add elastic to finish the legs and the waistband. But there is not instructions on the stretch lace. So that's what I am going to be showing you today. So head to that link below, cut out your stuff, follow the links in the pattern to cut out your stretch elastic, and I will meet you back at the camera to show you the exact supplies I used for this pair and how I did it. Let's talk about the supplies I'm going to be using today. First, I have already made a pair of underwear using that free pattern that I talked about earlier, and these are made out of cotton spandex. Then I am using stretch elastic lace. So I don't have a consistent place that I buy this from. I tend to go on Etsy and I'll search for stretch lace trim or lace elastic and find what I'm looking for and then just purchase from an Etsy shop. And I am using water-soluble stabilizer. Now, this is not absolutely necessary, but it does make it easier to sew these lace bands together. This is a supply that is typically used for machine embroidery. In fact, it's specifically used for a type of machine embroidery called freestanding lace, where you embroider on this and then it goes in the water and it all washes away and it just leaves you with the embroidery design and it looks like lace. But it's also really handy when you're sewing these lace loops together because unlike tissue paper or toilet paper, you don't have to tear it away. You can just use it underneath to help pull the lace through the feed dogs, and then it washes away the first time you wash your garment. So let's see how to use this exactly. I've got my lace for my waistband and my legs cut out here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to overlap very slightly, like maybe 1/4 of an inch, the lace, and I'm going to put it in the machine on top of my stabilizer. So I have my machine set to a pretty narrow and short zigzag, and I'm going to use it to secure these 2 lace ends together. And I'm going to do the same thing with the leg bands. The main thing to make sure of is to make sure that when you fold your loop that you don't accidentally twist the elastic, especially if the right and wrong sides are hard to tell apart. And I'm not going to show this because I don't want to frustrate myself, but I have found that when I try to do this without tissue paper or the water-soluble stabilizer under my lace, I end up getting knots at the beginning and getting really frustrated with trying to sew the lace together without some kind of stabilizer under it. And now I'm just going to take scissors and cut off the stabilizer next to the stitching. And this will give me a loop, and you can see the stabilizer on the back here, but again, that will wash off the very first time I wash these. So my next step here is we're going to start with the waistband because that's the easiest one to see. I want to quarter this. So my seam, it's going to be one side, and I'm going to use pins to mark the opposite side. This will be center front, and then I will match that seam and that pin to find the other 2 quarter points. I need to do the same thing on the underwear. So I'm going to match the two side seams, and that will help me find my center back and my center front. And then I can match those two pins to find the quarter points on the side. Now the side seams are not the quarter points because, as you can see, the back wraps around slightly towards the front. That is just a preference and a style decision, but it does mean that when I mark the quarter points, that they are slightly onto the back of the garment. Now what I want to do is I'm going to match the lace quarter points to the garment quarter points. So lace wrong side up to the wrong side of the fabric, match those together. We're going to stitch right on the edge of the fabric. Make sure there is a very small bit of lace peeking up beyond the raw edge of the fabric, and match those quarter points. Then I'm going to take this over to the machine. I am using a 3mm wide zigzag stitch that is 2mm long, and I'm going to stitch all the way around. Make sure that you have matching thread. So on this side, which is going to be my top thread, I want blue, but because it is sewing through the lace, which is white on the back side, my bobbin thread is going to be white. I like to start at the back and then place your hand at the side of the next quarter point, and you're going to stretch the lace until it matches the knit fabric flat. Here's what this looks like once you're done stitching, and you can trim off any threads. And then go ahead and you want to flip the lace towards the outside. And as you can see, what that's going to do is it's going to bury that raw edge of the fabric underneath the lace. So on the inside here, it's a folded and clean edge. Sometimes it can be helpful to use an iron to press this correctly. If you do that, be careful because a lot of this lace is nylon and it can melt. So use low heat and a pressing cloth to make sure you don't melt your lace. Now I'm going to rethread my machine because now I'm going to be stitching on the top white lace. So I want white lace on my top thread, or white thread on my top. And then I want, because these are white on the inside, I'm just going to leave the white bobbin thread on the inside. I am still using the same zigzag stitch, and I am still going to stretch the lace until it is laying flat against the knit fabric. Here is what that edge looks like when it is finished. You can see folded, no raw edges exposed on the outside, and there is a peak of lace above the top edge of the underwear. To do the legs, you're going to do the exact same thing. You're going to quarter them, you're going to quarter the leg loops, and then stitch them together. The only difference is that you will be stretching the lace a little more on the legs than you do on the top. Here are what the underwear look like once you've got the lace sewn onto the legs. And as previously mentioned, this washable stabilizer will just wash out and won't be there when you take them out of the wash. If you enjoyed this project, I'd encourage you to check out this playlist, which has some other lingerie and swimsuit, because swimsuit sewing is very similar to lingerie sewing, projects and techniques.